Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this session of the Black Muslim Festival, which is being led by our coaches, our faves, Coach Nyla, Coach Fatimah, and Coach Nazir of Outstanding Personal Relationships. Guys, if you haven't seen these guys talk before, get ready for a treat. They are going to bring it today, inshallah. And I believe that our topic today is getting polygamy, or should that be polygyny, right? Take it away, guys. Bismillah.
All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Coach Nazir.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. It's Nyla. Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. It's Fatimah. Coach Fatimah.
First of all, we're honored to be here. And just to let you know the breakdown, how we're going to do this over this next couple of hours is, yep, we are across the pond for many of you. So Salatul Dhuhr has just come in. So the way we're going to break it up is actually going to make it much easier for us as well. We're going to do it kind of how we do our monthly program when we work with our members at Outstanding Personal Relationships. So we're going to talk briefly for about 10, 15 minutes, kind of talk about polygyny, kind of its dynamics, its importance, and its place in today's society. And then we're also going to do some individual trainings. All right. Sometimes when you learn about polygyny, it might be from a fiqh perspective. It might just be in theory. We're going to talk to you about practically how to implement it, how to deal with different things, share with you our challenges, being transparent. And we're going to do it individually since all three of us are here. All right, I'm married to both these women. These are my wives. They're co-wives of each other. And currently we're in our 10th year practicing polygyny. At least I'm practicing polygyny 10 years. They're not practicing polygyny, if you will, so to speak. But so we're 10 years in. So what we're going to do is after we get done and the first 10, 15 minutes introduction, if you will, is Coach Fatimah is going to go ahead and train. I know that you want to hear from the women, especially. I can see that there are a lot of sisters in the room and they usually want to hear from the other sisters. So we're going to start there from that perspective. Then we go Coach Nyla and I'll kind of bring up the rear and then we're going to open up for question and answers. And it also gives us a time to offer salat and everything else. All right. Sounds good, everybody? All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. So here we go. Now, y'all can jump in anytime. I don't just go ahead there. But listen, let's talk about polygyny. And again, just in general, its place in today's society. Now, again, we're not anti-monogamy. We need to make that clear right up front. Right. We are pro-morals, which means marriage. The challenge is there are different forms of marriage, okay? And we're not giving that in general in today's society anyway. We just know monogamy, that's it. It's like, that's just what it is. And the problem there becomes that there's a big hole, there's a gap, there's a deficit in learning anything else, period. So when it comes to polygyny, this isn't, first of all, Allah Ta'ala lets you know to marry 2 or 3 or 4. And if you fear you can't do justice, then 1. All right. So who's educating on polygyny? Because I hear horror stories and we know that negative news spreads 13 times faster than positive news. So who's educating? Who's showing how to do things practically? Who's dealing with these different aspects and stuff like that? And we found that that is a major problem, not just in our community, just in the world as a whole. And not having that information caused us to have to go through a trial and error method and learn from a lot of different sources and put things together. So one of the reasons we even talk and teach on polygyny is because we chose to kind of be the change that we wanted to see. You know, many of us know that quote, we wanted to be the change, we wanted to be a resource, and we had to weigh whether or not we're going to be
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It looks like the video is frozen. If you can hear us, coaches, the video is frozen and there's no sound. Not today, shaitan. No. We're out here ready to get some knowledge, and he was dropping the gems as well, subhanAllah. Let me try and reconnect us. Here we go.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum, you're back. Alhamdulillah. Can you hear me? Okay, it's frozen again. Okay, let me try and get in touch with them. Video is frozen. Okay. All right, so let them get a chance to log out and come back in again, inshallah. Just from what I'm hearing, guys, I'm hearing this idea that, you know, really in general, all we kind of learn about is polygamy, polygyny. Is monogamy, right? Is monogamy, and, you know, all the narrative, right? Soulmate, and, you know, the one, and all of that kind of thing. And yes, wa alaikum salam, are you back with us?
I'm hoping so.
Bismillah. Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Tfaddalu. Go ahead.
All right. So I don't know necessarily where we left off, but I've been married to Coach Fatimah for 25 years and to Coach Nyla for 10 years. So we practiced polygyny for 10 years. And Coach Fatimah just kind of talk a little bit more about polygyny in general before she even goes into her training.
Well, I want to start with, you know, being a young wife. I was 20 when I got married. And if I could go back, I would learn more about polygyny and why it is healthy as far as society goes, as far as our culture goes. I would go way back and get really involved in educating myself as a wife, as a Muslim, period, on the importance of polygyny and its place in society, because it does have a place in society. I will be getting into that with my training. I never had an issue with polygyny being allowed in Islam. It's just, I think it's the fear of not knowing what it is and the rules and the ins and outs of it, and the insecurities that can be tied to it, the jealousies that can be tied to it. So I was not willing to practice polygyny when I was a younger version of myself, because I came from a place where women shared men, and it was always a negative.
We're not always Muslims, basically.
And they were not Muslims. Super ultra negative experiences. So I didn't have a good springboard to even open up the discussion, the dialogue. And I think a lot of times, or well, back then people hid, even though polygyny was being practiced at that time, but people didn't feel safe to talk about it. So I'm so happy that now we're having these discussions and we're talking about our truths and how it is for the men, how it is for the women, because living in a polygynous family is different between men and women. It is not the same experience. So my experience was speaking to women that were in polygyny or had practiced polygyny or been in a family that practiced polygyny. Let's say it was a daughter and her father practiced polygyny. Then those are the women I wanted to sit among, because they were the ones that were going to tell you the raw, uncut version of their experience, or the experience of their father. Because a lot of our daughters have friends that their fathers were in polygyny. So they have many siblings, and it's no big deal to them because they're used to it and they were raised in it. So I love now that I'm in a place where I've grown to understand that this is a thing. It's important to talk about and to learn about. You know, even if you're not in polygyny, it's good to study polygyny. And Coach Nyla has a really, great story about how she studied it.
I don't know how great it is actually, but I like that she said it. That was nice. Because it's just something like, it's I think when it came to studying and learning about polygyny, how it came to my attention was because when I was talking about converting to Islam, that's what everybody talked about. Like, that was the thing where people knew, if they didn't know anything else about Islam, they knew that the men could have more than one wife. So that's how I was introduced to it. They were like, can't the husband have more than one wife? Can't the husband have more than one wife? So my thing is, if I'm studying Islam, I'm studying the deen that I'm looking forward to, going into or converting to or anything like that, or just even trying to get more information, because I'm the type of person that say, well, why do people believe what they believe? Why do people behave the way they do? It's like, I'm the why person. And I learned from different people, different walks of life. And then when I started to study Islam, was like, this makes a lot of sense. And then when I started telling people that I was studying Islam, then people brought up the whole polygyny aspect, and I was like, okay, never heard of that really, because I didn't hear the ins and outs of Islam. So I was like, well, let me study that too, and it made so much sense to me. And I just think because coming from a single parent household, growing up that way, and then not only just my mother being a single parent and watching how that was, my grandmother was a single parent. It was like all the women in my family, like you go through it, it was like single parent, single parent, single parent. And either, we were dealing with men not being around or being locked up because of, locked up, going to jail because of societal or just the way society is, targeting Black men and different things like that. And polygyny just made so much sense because it was like that it takes a nation or it takes a village, to raise a child and all this other stuff. So yeah, I mean, I guess that was my introduction, so to speak, of polygyny, and it just made sense to me. Now, this is not my first marriage. So I was in monogamy before and got divorced and, so whatever. So I'm not, not, like I said, not averse to the monogamy thing. I'm not the person that said, like we say, we're not anti-monogamy, we're just pro-morals. It's just now, you get so much information on monogamy, how to live, how to be married, how to do the things as a wife and, all this other stuff. But polygyny doesn't get that fair shake, so we didn't have the information that we are putting out there. And we had some basic principles or what polygyny, the basics of what polygyny looks like, but not the ins and outs, the emotions that go with it, the different challenges, the blending of the families, a lot of the different things that we decided, of course, like what Coach Nazir and Coach Fatimah talked about, that we decided to be that, springboard or be the change and, do the work, because we were doing the work because we wanted success in our marriages. And by doing the work in our marriages, we're like, okay, this is working. This is good. And then we're seeing people fall apart, their marriages fall apart around us. They're like, no, we have to at least share, what we know, kind of the reluctant hero thing when people ask you like, okay, so, is this really real? Are you guys really, happy in this? And, wow, it seems like you're very happy in this. So what is the secret sauce? Which is not really a secret sauce. It's just, it's work and it's things that we must do in order to create the marriages we desire, whether it's monogamy or polygyny, but definitely because polygyny is not, the light is not shined on it as much and no one is really teaching it. And I mean, people aren't teaching it like they should. We decided that we have to be that.
Indeed. So we're going to pretty much hop into it. I do want to make just a couple quick points. One is that Islam did not bring polygyny. Okay. The Prophet Muhammad, Islam, polygyny had already been practiced in society before he was born. And it's been practiced for thousands of years and has actually been the norm for quite some time. What Islam did was simply regulate it. It made it fair, regulated, and provided for us the best blueprint. And I'm concerned that we are doing a disservice, meaning the Muslim community, Muslims, whom Allah Ta'ala is Al-Hakim, the most wise, all right, Al-Alim, the all-knowing, has given us a system of marriage, all right, whether it's monogamy or polygyny. But if we're not talking about it, if we're not teaching it, if we're not showing the practical matters of what the best person, whoever walked this earth, alayhi salatu wasalam, practiced, then we're doing our own selves and our own ummah a major disservice. And if we believe and know that Shaitan's, Iblis's favorite, most praised deed of his shayateen is to break up families, how much more are we possibly playing into that by not showing alternatives for marriage, meaning alternative forms of marriage, in particular, the only other form being polygyny. So that's our concern. And we would like it to get equal play. All right, equal play, because again, when you hear about maybe lack of education, they have this fear. We know what fear of the unknown is. Again, we're in America, spelled with a triple K. So with that, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get started shortly, in a couple of seconds, actually. I'm going to be talking about, again, from the male perspective, so kind of why polygyny, really what it takes, whether or not you could be twice the man. I believe you have to be a man of value to practice it. And I will give you a small disclaimer. Again, we've been practicing 10 years, okay? This is not, we wouldn't have been able to do this the first few years in polygyny, okay? It took time to get where we are. So if you're practicing, if you're new, if you're considering, do not compare your chapter 1 or 2 or 3 with our chapter 10, for example. It's okay, everybody has their own process.
I think we're having connectivity issues, guys. Inshallah, let's be patient. I want to sort of go through some of the some of the comments. Yeah, the video's frozen. So are you guys back?
I don't know.
Yes, yeah, you're back now. Yes, you're back now. And you were saying don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. That's where it kind of cut off.
Yes, our chapter 10. Man, see, that was all of the good stuff I just said. That was worth it all, and it was frozen.
She gone now.
You missed it. You missed it. All right, but what we're gonna do is go ahead and Coach Fatimah is gonna start. So we're gonna go ahead and mute our audio and video and bring this presentation up. Prayerfully, we'll be able to go ahead and get that situated. Naima allow us to go ahead and share, and we will go from there. And we'll be right back, and you'll see one person on the screen. Inshallah.
You should be able to share now, inshallah. I think the team are just getting set up, and yes, you'll be able to watch the recording later, inshallah. It's being recorded, so we will definitely put the link up in the Facebook group and also in the members area for those of you who have an all access pass. And just want to check in with the coaches. Is your audio off? Because we can't hear anything.
Yes, it is. It's back
Okay,
on.
perfect.
So about 10 seconds, we'll get started. Don't worry.
No worries. Okay. Everybody's eager. Like everybody's like, am I missing something? Is something happening?
No, nothing's happening just yet.
Yes. All right.
Not just yet. Can you hear me, sis? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Perfect.
Alhamdulillah. All right. Just double checking audio, visual. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Again, I'm Fatimah, Coach Fatimah with OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com. And I am a co-wife, and I practice polygyny with my polygynous family that is Black. So I want to jump right into my training about who I am and how I had to transition from monogamy to polygyny, and just some really basic best practices. And I know it's not something that's super deep, but this is a very vast, important subject. So let's hop right into it. Just 1 second, guys. I'm trying to move my slide. Okay. Transitioning into polygyny. For myself, for example, I had the wrong mindset. I didn't have a positive outlook on polygyny because it's something that I personally did not see myself being involved in at all. I really, really didn't. And then you have that hope that your husband doesn't practice polygyny. I didn't always know about the subject of polygyny as far as in today's society. I thought it something of olden days or something of the past or something that, wasn't so prevalent in our current society. And back then it was the 90s when I got married. But I had this negative mindset. I didn't see it as wrong, but I saw it as something that I was not willing to do. So the first thing to start with is a positive mindset and positive thinking. When we go into something that is with a defeatist attitude, it's hard to get through it. It just is. When my mindset was negative, everything around me backfired. Everything I tried to do backfired. And then I look back and I go, when I had a positive mindset, especially when it came to, like, let's say Eid celebrations. For years, we didn't go to Eid as a family. And I really felt terrible about that because I felt like my children weren't getting the best example of a polygynous family that they could get. It was really difficult for us. And I thought, what can I do to help? So I had to control my negative thoughts and my negative mindset and push those negative thoughts out of my mind. Also, not assuming that I had the answers, not assuming that I knew the world of a man that was practicing polygyny. There's so many different layers to it. There was no way I was going to understand it in a week, a day, a month, 2 months. Another thing that was more difficult for me when I was in my own way was the realization or the reality that the position of, just our husband at the time was not the position of my own self. I was not a husband that practiced polygyny. I didn't have that pressure of creating that balance. So all the assumptions that I had and thinking that I knew what it was like for him, well, he decided to do it. He must know exactly what he's doing, when he's doing it, how he's doing it. And it's not the case. Sometimes when we're learning things, we go through it and we try, and then we figure out, okay, that's maybe not the best way to do things. And let me correct that or redirect that into a better way, into a more efficient way. So a lot about our stories is about learning as we went what is best for our family. And he's the head of our family, and we all have a voice and all our voices matter. But he has the distinct job or responsibility to be the husband in the marriages. Okay, this one is really big. And again, I was terrible at honoring our individuality. When your husband's 19 and you are 20 and you want it to work so much that you're so busy not being married, but I feel like I was curating my marriage. Like someone would take care of something that is in a museum that is precious to them. Curating and being in the game and being involved and being a wife and being my own whole person and him, his own person, was something that I didn't know how to do. My world revolved around our daughter and just the two of us, little tiny family that we had, because he came from a broken place. I came from a broken place, broken families on both ends, generational brokenness. So I had all my cards on my marriage working exactly how I wanted it to work, not us. I had a dream of my marriage and what it should look like. And back then, it looked like something similar to, and exactly not wanting him to practice polygyny or hoping that he wouldn't. Your marriage is a union between two individuals who consensually and contractually come together for the purpose of fulfilling the laws of Allah. You'll get love and those things, of course, along the way, inshallah. But finding out that you're two different people who have their own set of responsibilities is important. It is a partnership, not a property. Okay, individuality is important in your marriage. It's just vital because you're committing to a partnership with your spouse where you're working together. You have an agreement to work together and you find out what is best for your monogamous marriage to your husband. So both my co-wife and I are monogamously married to Coach Nazir. Their marriage has nothing to do with me. Their marital goals have nothing to do with me. My marital goals with him has nothing to do with Coach Nyla. Now, our family goals are different. What do we want for our children? What do we want for our family as a whole? Where do we want to live? What do we want to accomplish? Who do we want to teach? Who do we want to teach us? That's different. But the goals that are in, and she'll talk about, and she has trained about, and I love her training about creating a marriage mission statement and figuring out what are your marital goals within your specific marriage. It's a very delicate balance, polygyny. It's something that makes us feel scared sometimes, jealous sometimes, unsure, full of anxiety. I'll get into that a little later, but another thing that I figured out that I didn't get to have an opinion on specific things that Allah decreed for Coach Nazir. I could say how I kind of felt about some things, but to completely diminish his journey was a whole nother matter. We're allowed certain opinions, but not extreme judgment, not extreme assumptions or destructive behavior. Destructive behavior would be the character assassination of your husband, your co-wife, anything surrounding your children, what he's trying to do. Even if you're in your head and you go, oh, he's not doing a good job. That's something that you should be making dua for him. Guidance for yourself, knowledge for yourself, guidance for him, protection of the heart, protection of the family. The two things I remember when polygyny first entered my life personally, I remember making the same dua over and over and over again. I asked Allah for understanding and I asked Allah for knowledge. And I was like, I don't know when this is going to come. I don't know if I'll ever understand this. I don't know if I'll ever get through this. This is one of the worst things I've ever went through in my entire life. Just the action of even thinking about him being married to someone else was just devastating because I didn't know where I fit in. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to be. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what answers to give friends and family. I learned along the way, but that dua was powerful because now I feel like I can understand more and I can see why it's important. I can see the responsibility. I can, support as much as I can his responsibilities. Initial wives and polygyny. I was thinking about this when I was creating this training. I said, okay, Fatimah, what did you go through? What did you struggle with? What was the most difficult time for you? One of the most difficult times for me was understanding that his time would be split and he had obligations that I did not have, that I did not know about. I didn't have the information. Everything before polygyny, I had all the information that I needed. I understood everything and why it happened because we talked about everything and why it happened. With polygyny, it's much different. I'm not allowed to know every single aspect of what goes on in the life of my co-wife and our husband. That's not my right. And vice versa. It goes both ways. And I understood that, alhamdulillah, he had his own life to lead inside of our marriage and outside of our marriage, just like before. It's not, Fatimah, you share him with Coach Nyla. Share him with his children, with his friends, with his extended family, with his mother. His father has since passed. May Allah grant him Jannah. Ameen. But when he was here, all of those people got a place in his heart, a place in his life. And that is allowed. Our worlds are not supposed to revolve around one another. That's the thing. So the world and the bubble that I had put us in, he was never to be in that bubble. I was never to be in that bubble. Our child was never to be in this little bubble that I would curate and hope it wouldn't burst. That's the assumption I made. Okay. And with his responsibility and with him leading his own life, he had to execute responsibilities on the other side. He has to execute responsibilities with me because that is the command that he has from Allah, from his Lord. He's not my man. He's not Coach Nyla's man. He belongs to Allah. And when I made that choice to listen to that, things got better for me personally. He has contractual obligations per marriage. And I don't want to just speak to the sisters that is just one or two wives. There's 3 or 4 wives sometimes. Sometimes there's 3. Sometimes there's 1. Still has contractual obligation. He has to follow through. I remember visiting a friend of mine, and this was like maybe the 3rd month, because the first 2 months it was difficult for me and I didn't really go out. And a friend of mine invited me to her home. And she just, I know out of desperation, and this is a friend that I had for almost 20 years at the time. She said, Fatimah, well, can't he just divorce her? I mean, she sounded so defeated. And I looked at her and I said, even with all my cloudiness, all my confusion, I didn't have any answers, all the mess that I was going through, all of my anxiety and hurt and pain and betrayal and all these different feelings that I was having. I never forgot Allah. I said, he can't do that. I said, he made a contract. He's got to follow through. He can't. And he doesn't want to. So she was like, you know what? You're right. And we're 2 Muslim women, but she just didn't know what to say, I think. And she said, you know what, Fatimah, you're right. He has to. She said, and I'm not going to stir your pot up. And that is exactly what she said. And she's one of the first sisters. Two Eids ago, 2 years ago, we were all at Eid. My family was at Eid. And she was there with her children and she hugged my co-wife. Now, early on, my friends didn't want to hug my co-wife, and that's okay. They have to. And, but to see her go, okay, if my friend is okay, then this person must be of so much value to her. And she hugged her and it meant so much to me. And I said, you know what, there's growth here. There was an understanding here that we are wives, all 3 of us, no matter who's married to whom. But respecting the position was so nice and I love her for that. But she understood, you're right, he has an obligation. And he does. One thing that I was doing, I was trusting in others and I wasn't putting my full trust in Allah. Your trust in Allah Ta'ala comes first and foremost. And I can't stress that enough. And he knows what we know not. You think you know everything? You think you got it figured out? Or your assumptions leading you? Are you ego driven? Is your ego leading you to say you're right? Are you on your soapbox? Are you being self-righteous? I asked a friend of mine a question. I said, well, you know so much about, relationships and you've been married almost 35 years. Can you give me some advice? And she looked at me and she said, Fatimah, I don't know anything. I know La ilaha illallah. I know that Allah is in control. That's what I know. She's telling me I had to deal and work in partnership with my husband. You got to do your work. I can't tell you what exactly that looks like for you. But she did say this. She said, when that old Fatimah shows back up, she said, oh, watch out. She's going to be happier than ever, smarter than ever, educated, able to speak her truth. She was telling me the power was within, but she was also telling me that I had to do my own work. And I appreciate that. And I had my life, again, planned one way and Allah had it planned another way. He's not my assumption and Allah was not my ego. He's not anyone's ego. We can't even compare what he is. There's so many things that have happened in our marriage, in our polygynous family, that we could not create. But Allah is giving me things, so many things to stretch me, to stretch us all, to make us more than what we see. I never thought I'd coach polygyny, marriage, anything. I give a little advice at the little tea parties that we had around town. That was the extent of it. I wasn't interested in getting in anybody's business or getting involved or telling anybody what a best practice for anything was in regards to marriage, especially polygyny, because I was too afraid of it to face it. But when I faced it and when I read about it, I understood it more. Another thing is becoming friends and not frenemies. A frenemy is someone that doesn't want you to win. A frenemy is someone that dislikes you or dislikes something that you practice. They'll smile at you every now and again, but behind the scenes, they're treating you as they would an enemy. There's different little spurts of it. And I've seen it in polygyny. You know, you love your husband maybe, but I don't like what you do. I don't like that you practice polygyny. And I said to myself, one day I looked in the mirror and I said, Fatimah, your husband has another wife. And then I looked at myself and I said, now what? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for your life? What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna keep running from it? Are you gonna keep acting like it's not there? Are you gonna keep being ignorant of the facts and not educating yourself about Islam and why it's okay? Until I got to the point where I kept trying to grow personally in implementing personal development to the point where I said, it's what he's supposed to do because that's his destiny. That's not yours. And his destiny is not my assumption. Transitioning into polygyny, polygynous practices. A lot of people have asked us this question, is polygyny legal? Is it lawful? It's lawful by law. Mankind does not have to agree with, nor say, nor give us permission to practice or be in polygynous families. Allah acknowledges it. It is his will. It is something that he has commanded on some. It's not for everybody. That's fine, you know? And we all have practiced monogamy at some point. But we're in a family that practices polygyny, and that's okay. And we tell people all the time. You know, I had somebody tell me, well, you know, if something happens to him, you're his legal wife. I said, I may be his legal wife, but we're both his lawful wives. And whatever he gets and whatever he gives, she's already got it. And I already have mine. And our children have theirs. So I'm not going to rob anyone else of their rights that God gave them. That I won't do. Another thing is understanding the obvious changes as far as splitting time. And people have asked us, how do you split time? You can't really say how you split time. It's just how you decide to split time and what works for your family and whatever everyone agrees upon. For us, it's every other night or every other day, if you will. And it's something that is healthy for our family because we have many children in our family, and we have some young adults in our family as well. Every day would affect them a great deal. They would not like that. Now, maybe through geography or through work or through whatever the case may be, the distance between homes, you have to decide what's best for your family, but understanding and being having that self-preparedness to say, okay, there's going to be some obvious changes around here. Some of the obvious changes are the time sharing. Some of the obvious changes are children that may come from the marriage. Obvious changes would be people maybe wondering, are you divorced? That was a big one for us. I got asked so much, were we divorced? Because they saw Coach Nazir with Coach Nyla, they'd say, oh, I didn't know you guys got divorced. I'm going, wait a minute. Nobody told you. I saw someone else. And I said, well, he's with his other wife right now, and he was with me yesterday. We're married. We're monogamously married to him. Of course, people sometimes have to pick the jaw up off the floor, and I get it. But I had to understand that people are going to approach me and say some things and get some things confused. And sometimes it's not from a place of malice or anything like that. They just want to, they're looking for clarity. And that leads to my next point. If you need to know something or you need clarity, just simply ask, but don't demand. Don't say, well, I want to know what's going on around here. You better tell me. You don't get to say that. You don't get to talk like that in a monogamous relationship. So you don't get to do that now. And I want to be clear that our husbands and us as well, we have certain rights over each other. But one of the rights that we don't get to knowingly, consciously activate is commanding that our questions be answered right now when we want it done. It's a request. So request clarity. It's okay. Just simply say, I have some questions. Can you please help me answer them? Because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what should I do? What should we do? What's going to happen with Eid? And your husband might say, I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know. I was going to ask you to. You 3, you 4. And that's all right. Because the biggest mistakes I made was thinking that Coach Nazir had all the answers and everything was all figured out because he got married again. It was not true. He had a lot of the answers, but at the same time, I had to let him evolve and grow. He wasn't going to have everything together. We didn't have everything together year 1 when we got married. My grandfather died 2 weeks after we were married. So I was grieving 2 weeks after we got married because the man that raised me passed away. So I had to, along with him, try to figure it all out. Okay, another thing, I wasn't doing this. I wasn't allowing myself out. I wasn't leaving the house. I wasn't talking to my co-wife. I wasn't talking to friends. My friends they're so nice. And they're such good women, alhamdulillah. I had one friend show up to my house. She sat in the rain for a half hour in her car. Something. I'm like, I'm not coming out. He's here. She's like, so what? He came out of the house before this and he was home. I didn't know what to do. So she did not come in the house and she did leave, but she's one of to support me and go, you can still have fun. You can still feel, you're still allowed to laugh. You can go to sleep. Your body has a right over you. That's what's so beautiful about having Muslim women in my life and having a co-wife that's practicing Islam. You get those beautiful reminders from some powerful people. But yes, it's not abnormal to feel confusion, anger, jealousy, hurt, betrayal, anxiety. I would have an anxiety panic attack every time I saw Coach Nazir because I'm like, oh, is he going to say something new to me today? Is he going to, startle me with, there might be a baby or anything. I would create these things in my head and sometimes he would just come visit if it wasn't his day to be there. And I had created this big old giant, it was just a circus in my mind I had created and nobody asked me to. It's just something that happened, but I didn't think it was okay to feel those things. So I just shut them off. And I had to go, I'm a person. I can feel sad. I can feel happy. I can feel joy still. There's still good times to be had. But when I was confused, I started to ask questions. Just even if they're so small, ask and get some clarity. And when I did that, I started to feel better. I didn't have as much anxiety or confusion or, it's almost like a fear of loss. Like we think because our husbands marry again, that diminishes our marriage or it's going to completely erase us. And it's not the truth. People don't love us and then get married again. The men don't love us, get married again, and then dump the love for us out of their hearts or want to kick us out of their lives. They don't say, well, I got another wife. I'm going to divorce you now. It's polygyny. It's plural marriage is what is being practiced. It's not this erasing my first wife, my second, my third wife. It's not taking away from you. It's not going to subtract anything from you or your marriage if he marries someone else. And that is a valuable lesson that I had to learn, but I dragged myself hard before I learned it. And nobody told me to. It's something that I did for myself. If anything, people were reminding me of how wonderful things are and could still be. It's not about making things normal or like they were before. They're not going to be like they were before, but that doesn't mean they have to be destructive. That doesn't mean they have to be this caricature of what your marriage was beforehand in monogamy. It's just making it as normal and as fulfilling as it can be the way things are now. I didn't know. Allah knew polygyny was going to be in my life. Whether I accepted it, whether I knew it, whether I didn't know or not, he knew what I could do. And if he brought me to it, he'll bring me through it. And he'll do the same for all of us, inshallah. Just keep making dua. Another thing that I was lacking and that I've seen before, and I'm glad I have this back, is my ability to critically think. Sometimes when we go through polygyny or we feel all those different emotions at once, we're stopping ourselves from evaluating, making rational decisions, reflecting on things, committing to, our personal growth and creativity. I quit doing art for years because I was so busy being a mom. I didn't have the time. And then when Coach Nazir married Coach Nyla, I started painting again. And then I painted 6 different pictures of flowers. And then I gave each picture to a friend of mine, and they're hanging in their house. That was my therapy. But I stopped myself from doing that long before polygyny. But it was something that I found that I needed for myself. So I had to make a rational decision in many different areas to be who I was or be better than I was before. Critical thinking doesn't happen all the time, but your ability to practice personal development and growth happens every day. It should be on a schedule every single day. We're coaches, alhamdulillah. But with coaching comes a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of personal development and learning. You're constantly a student. You're always a student. This life is a testing ground. It's all about these tests that are here to stretch you. Polygyny is a lifestyle, not a death sentence. That's another gem that I had to learn. We're going to do a little exercise very quickly, but efficiently. I'm going to close your eyes. If they're not closed, I'm going to walk you through this. Okay. Think about someone that you love that has passed away. Who were they and what did they mean to you? Where were you when you got the news of their passing, or were you with them? What was your first raw reaction to the news that they passed, or to the optics and seeing that they passed? How did it feel for you to be at their funeral? And finally, how did you feel when they were buried? I remember, and it's hard to talk about because I remember when this first happened, when Coach Nazir married again. And my grandmother was like, she said, I get a little choked up. And she was like, you can get through this because I raised you. She took credit for that. Alhamdulillah, she said what she had to say to get my attention, and she was right. She was from strong women. And she said, you know what? I said, well, Grandma, how did you get through the hard times in your life? And she said to me something. She said, I buried my mama. I can do anything. Her mother died in her arms in a nursing home. And she had had a stroke from neck down, and she couldn't speak for a year. And she said, I begged my mother, don't leave me. And she said, my mother said, I have to. She said she took her last breath. And for me, I said, who do I think I am that I would compare my hardship to feeling like I'm going through some type of death of my marriage? That wasn't the case. Oh, I got a woman that's telling me that my mother died in my arms. I buried her. I can get through anything this life has to offer. Anything. Because this ain't that. She said, you come from me, my mother, and her mother before her. You can get through this. She was right. She was right. My grandmother is not a Muslim woman. She said, I agree with everything about Islam except for polygyny. And that spoke volumes to me, but she's a very, very smart, wise lady. Okay, polygyny is an experience that can't be compared to death. Like I was saying, death is final. Polygyny can be successful with the proper mindset, intention, and education, and willingness to do your part, willingness to stay in your lane, willingness to do what has something to do with you, and stay away from things that don't have anything to do with you. Offer support and balance where you can, when you're ready, when you get to that point. But it's not going to happen if you're in a place that you feel safe in, because growth doesn't happen in safety. It doesn't happen in your comfort zone. You have to step outside of it. I'm a very private woman. I didn't do Facebook. I wasn't interested. But this work is work that has to be done. It has to be talked about, and opening up a dialogue about polygyny and getting out of my own way. And I said, I want to help people. I want to coach people, but I'm not going to get on the internet. It's ridiculous when I think back on it, because here I am on the internet. Here's my family on the internet trying to help people. So it's not as difficult. But I want to drive the point home that it is a process. Polygyny is a process. And I will close with this. You can't rush a flower through its growth. It honors its process. It doesn't compete with another flower. It does its job to become the best flower that it can be. Flowers don't rob other flowers of their beauty. They just bloom. And I understood that I have my own uniqueness. My co-wife has her own uniqueness and beauty, and her husband has his own. And we're not each other, not to be compared to each other. We are just three people raising our family, trying our best to be our best version of us that we can be. And if we can help people along the way, alhamdulillah. But my experience as a Black woman that practices polygyny didn't have to be as difficult as it was. But getting the lessons out of our difficulty is what it is about. Being grateful for those lessons and those bumps on the head, because next time we'll be more careful, inshallah. And that is what I've learned as an initial wife transitioning into polygyny, was that I needed to stretch myself and understand what rules and regulations were and boundaries, and to make things as normal as they could be and as fulfilling as they could be, and not make them as they used to be, because my growth was not there. My growth is right here where polygyny started. Inshallah, you all got some takeaways. I'm going to go over some very quickly. Remember that you and your spouse are individuals and leading your own specific lives, your own specific responsibilities. Allah has designated destinies for each one of us, and we must respect that. Our marriages, again, are partnerships and not our property. You know, we belong to Allah, our husbands, our children belong to Allah. Polygyny can work with a proper positive mindset, and that happens through much and much personal development and reading and wanting and willing to be better. And again, polygyny is not a competition. Celebrate what makes you unique, what makes your marriage unique. And again, I'm Coach Fatimah with OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com, and we are going to get ready for our next coach. And I hope you guys got some gems from this training. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too. I'll see you guys in the next one or in the Q&A, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. Facebook will be right back. We'll be right back.
MashaAllah, just looking at everyone's comments. In
Yeah.
here. Have a look at the comments, sis. Have a look at the comments.
Alhamdulillah.
So like,
So like
peace.
we can put these chairs together.
Okay, so
We can stop video.
I don't know how he had this set up. So alhamdulillah, guys, we had some great information and got some good takeaways from Coach Fatimah's training. I'm looking down here because I'm looking at the different chats and everything, the different chats, the different comments in the chat. Because I know that we are on a time restraint and everything like that. I think, I guess our husband went to make a quick run and went to pick up a one of the things that we left. It was one of the, like the easel, and then it was probably something else. It doesn't really matter to me because I have a
She got
a sheet and everything like that. We're gonna wing it because I know we're on time restraints, and I don't want you guys to miss anything and all that other good stuff. So give us a second. We're gonna set up, and then I'm gonna get started with my training. All right, and it's gonna pretty much be talking about pretty much avoiding the subsequent wife stereotype. And so let me get and what is that supposed to mean? I'm gonna let you guys know that in a second, okay?
Let you know what it means.
So yeah, we're gonna turn off the video for a second just so I can get set up a little bit, and then we'll be back in probably a few minutes, not even that long, okay? So if you guys need to get something to drink, whatever, you probably broke your pencil or something because you was taking so many notes. I don't know. Get a new pen, whatever you need to do. Just give us about 2 minutes or so, and we'll be ready, inshallah.
Well, everybody can take a break, inshallah. If you've all been sitting down for all this time, which you probably have been, I suggest you stand up. I'm going to stand up and take a stretch. Oh, and take a deep breath, a nice big cleansing breath. MashaAllah. Great chats, guys. Really, really beautiful. Yeah, I really think, mashallah, you need a demonstration. Dr. Sarah, leave me. But yeah, mashallah, it really is always amazing to just hear, subhanallah, something that's been I've been thinking about this since we kicked off last Friday, and it is this whole thing of possibility, of showing what's possible. And I think that having these types of sessions, I think we've had several sessions that have shown us what is possible. Would you guys say that that's true? Whether it's to do with, people's confidence, or their sense of self, or their sense of pride in their identity, or their marriage, or their work, or their grind, or their intellect, whatever it is, we've been exposed, I feel like multiple times, to what is possible. And I take it all the way from Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick and his vast knowledge on, our history and what he's been able to do in his lifetime, to, sister, brother Rufus and sister Jenny, to sister Mariam Lemu and brother Saeed Takuma, not just in their union, but in what he has come from. I think that we have been exposed to people who really have shown us what is possible. And I hope, inshallah, that the coaches, Nyla, Fatimah, and Nazir, are also showing us what is possible. Because once you show people what is possible, they can never forget it, because now it's a reference, it's a proof, right? So if a part of you says, nah, we could never do that, you have a proof. No, it is possible because I saw so-and-so, I read this, I heard that, you know, I attended this. It is possible, mashallah. So I hope, inshallah, that this session is also showing us a little bit about what is possible.
Assalamu alaikum, guys, can you see?
Walaikum salam. Yes, you're in.
You hear me?
Yep, all good.
Awesome. All righty. So, thought you were going to, yeah, I don't know. Got a lot of stuff going on right now. Of course, people don't realize that we're training right now. So what I'm talking about is avoiding the subsequent wife stereotype. Okay, here we go, because there's another sheet that I had. Avoiding the subsequent wife stereotype, practicing KLM for polygyny success. Okay? And what that means is this. Of course, I'm just going to rip this off. Usually I just flip the board. K, knowing your worth. L, looking at the big picture. M, minding your marriage. Now, here's the thing. The reason why I decided to discuss and talk about things from a subsequent wife's point of view, for one, I'm a subsequent wife, incoming wife. So this doesn't matter if you're a second wife, a third wife, fourth wife, whatever. This comes in as a subsequent wife because I was going to say the stigma of subsequent wife. And I'm like, you know, being a subsequent wife is not a stigma. A stigma is something that should be, you know, is dishonorable. It's something that you should feel ashamed of. Being a subsequent wife is not something you should feel ashamed of. However, there are stereotypes of a subsequent wife. There are stereotypes where people feel that subsequent wife is supposed to ask permission or making sure it's okay to or for them to marry their husband, you know, the husband of the first wife or the husband that she's going to share with her first wife, however you want to put it. I mean, these different things where when we talk about it on a number of occasions, we think about monogamy. And as I stated before, I was in monogamy. And you know what, we were rushing and doing this thing. So let me start over because I don't know if I really totally introduced myself. So bismillah, alhamdulillah. Nyla, Coach Nyla, one of the co-founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships and outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. We run Outstanding Personal Relationships. I run it with my co-wife, Coach Fatimah, who you just heard from, and our husband, who you heard from earlier today. And like I stated before, the reason why I talk about it from a subsequent wife standpoint is pretty much almost the same reason why we really got into talking about polygyny and why we teach on polygyny, because it's not really talked about. It's a subject that is not talked about. It's a subject that's not really taught on. It's, you know, something that's just there because people know that subsequent wives exist, you know, because polygyny exists. But the thing is that when it comes down to it, people have this idea of what that should look like. Sometimes subsequent wives are called home wreckers, and they're called so many, and just the names aren't good. And a lot of it comes because of what the feelings of the initial wife how the initial wife was feeling when the husband married again. So she becomes supposedly supposed to become this this enemy, this automatic enemy of the first wife. And a lot of times that's because society has conditioned us to say, you know what, if you're sharing a man, if you're sharing a husband, then you should not possibly like each other. Or the person who is coming into, you know, your life is the person that's coming in to destroy something or take something away from you. And that's not always the case. And I can say it's not always the case because it definitely was not the case for me. And it was not the case for a lot of women who I know who became subsequent wives in polygyny. So the thing was, I had so many wives and so many women who decided that they wanted to practice polygyny, or not just practice polygyny, because technically, like we said, it's the husband that's practicing polygyny, but who wanted to get involved in polygyny, was that they see a good man, because regardless of what people want to say and the narrative that they want to put out there, there's a shortage of good men out there. There is a shortage of good men if we look at the infant mortality rates, girls survive infancy more than boys do. The number is higher. And when it comes to men who are incarcerated, when it comes to men who, the lifespan of men, it's so many different things that play into the part of not being enough men, period. But what about available men, especially in Islam, where when you, as a woman, you have to marry a Muslim man, and so it's these different things where it goes into play. So it gets to the point where any woman that's looking for a suitable man who happens to be married to someone else, she's looked at as a person who does not have value, or she's not valuing herself, or she's trying to destroy something someone else has. Because I've heard it so many times, like, find your own man. Why you can't find your own man? Why are you trying to take something that someone else has? Why, did you not make sure it was okay with the first wife? All these different things. And those are the stereotypes that are put in, that are put towards any type of subsequent wife or incoming wife. So I always talk about practicing KLM. And that's knowing your worth, looking at the big picture, and minding your marriage. Is everything okay? So, okay, knowing your worth, what does that mean? That means seeing your value. So I have a self-assessment and of how that looks. So it's a self-assessment for self-appreciation. Seeing value, your self-appreciation, knowing your purpose, knowing your abilities and what you are capable of. When it comes down to it, this is something that you should be able to do for yourselves. So take out a sheet of paper, make sure you're in the right frame of mind, all these different things, because when it comes down to it, and a person who's looking to get married or looking to get into polygyny, because some people ask that, like, okay, well, if I see or if I know that it's a brother that I am looking to marry, how do I go about that? Especially knowing that he's already married. First and foremost, go through your guardian, go through your wakil, go through your wali. But a lot of times they feel that, okay, should I make sure it's okay with the first wife? Should I meet with her first? That is a thing where it could cause these issues, because when you are getting married, you're not marrying you're not marrying your co-wife. You're marrying the husband. You're marrying him. So we think about it. I mean, I can get you into the mindset of thinking about it as an initial wife. When you go and you marry your husband, looking to marry your husband, if your his mother, or any type of family member, whether it's auntie or anybody like that, have some issues with you marrying him, would that stop you from marrying him? Would that stop you from, saying that, I know this is the right person for me. It's our marriage. We're going to build on this marriage. This is us. This is what we are doing. I know he's qualified. I know all of this other good stuff. Would anything that your future mother-in-law or your mother-in-law or anything like that have to say, or auntie or anything like that, stop you from marrying your husband, marrying that man? So I look at that as a subsequent wife, in a subsequent wife's point of view. If you have a person that is qualified, you guys are looking to get married, is that really is finding out if it's okay with the subsequent wife or with your co-wife or future co-wife? Is that necessary for you to get married, for you to have the life and the marriage that you want? Because your husband is monogamously married to his wives. He's monogamously married to you, monogamously married to his first wife or to the initial wife or anything like that. So you want to make sure, and I'll go into that when I talk about minding your marriage, you want to make sure that you're minding your marriage. And that's how you how you have success in polygyny, whether you are a subsequent wife or first wife or anything like that. It comes to minding your marriage. It comes to focusing on what's important. And what's important is what you and your husband decided your marriage is going to look like. And that's where you work. And that's where you continue to work on. And that's what you continue to work on. So you want to take your self-appreciation assessment, because a lot of times subsequent wives can come in not knowing their value, not knowing their worth, thinking that they're coming in just as an addition, and not really knowing where, what their place is. So that's why they feel that they need to get some type of permission or validation or anything like that. But once you know your purpose, you know your abilities, what you are capable of, you know that you are human, and these comes with flaws and quirks, and it don't make you less than anything. So you don't have to be perfect. I mean, I came into polygyny thinking that I have to make sure everything was right. That I was just the epitome of like the perfect person. And I'm not saying the perfect wife, but just the perfect person. Like if anybody had any type of issues, it was my job to try to fix it. No one put that on me but me. So we want to make sure that we are being careful with how we are entering into our marriages. So, and you want to know that you possess the power to build and create the relationships you want, whether that's with your husband as well as with your co-wife. You have the power to do that. And you have the power to do that by creating a plan, being transparent, knowing what you want, and working on that. And yes, it takes both, but it starts with you. Another thing you want to find out, what do you have to offer? Or you want to know that. What do you have to offer? What do you have to offer yourself? What do you have to offer your marriage? What do you have to offer in your marriage? These are the things that you want to put in your mindset. These are the things that you want to do, because when you do these things and you do this assessment, this gives you the confidence. This gives you the confidence to say, you know what? I deserve a great marriage. I deserve a wonderful life. I deserve these things that is going to help me be the person that I want to be. Because when it all comes down to a marriage, it's supposed to help us grow. Marriage is supposed to help us be better. Alhamdulillah, marriage is half our deen. So, we want to make sure that we are choosing the right spouses, and your spouse being married should not be that thing that disqualifies him. But what it should do is, make sure that he's available. And what I mean, and available means that he's into polygyny, that he is willing to get married again, that he is, he's the person that you are looking for. But a lot of that comes with talking to your wakil and talking to your wali about that and letting them know what it is. And a lot of it, like I said, is gaining that confidence by first knowing your worth, knowing what you have to offer, what you are willing to put in, so you know what you want to get out of it. L stands for looking at the big picture. Let's say it before, it's like, what do you want in your marriage? What do you want out of your marriage? How do you want your marriage to look? How do you want to grow in your marriage? And it starts, as I stated before, with you. What are you willing to put in? What do you want? That's where the marriage mission statement comes in. Now, we talk about the marriage mission statement a lot. We also talk about it in our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle, which is our monthly program that we talked about earlier. And the marriage mission statement is pretty much a statement that you put together. You put together first, and your spouse puts one together of his own, and then you come together and create an ultimate marriage mission statement. And this marriage mission statement, it starts with finding out what it is you want, what are you willing to put in, how do you want to grow, all these different things that is necessary to succeed, to win in your marriage, because you want to win. You want to win in your marriage. No one gets married to just say, well, I just wanted to be married. I mean, there may be some people that are out there like that, but sometimes it goes right back to decay, not knowing your worth, but stating that I know that I want to be married because, I do have these morals. Not only do I want to get married and I want to be married, you have other people that can be in your ear stating that, you should get married. So it's these different things that, okay, I know I want to be married. So sometimes people don't go into the work that it takes before marriage, as well as going into the work that it takes to stay married and be happily married. So it goes back into the knowing your worth and knowing what you want to get out. And then you create this marriage mission statement. That is the next step, and that is the plan. And that's the plan that you have that can change over time if you decide to constantly revisit it. But when it comes to your marriage mission statement, this is actually something that you should have that you're looking at consistently, that you are reviewing, if not daily, weekly. Because the more you look at it, the more you know what it is, and you know it from your heart, and you know it by heart, that's gonna always be the thing in the front of your mind to create the success in your marriage. So you want to make sure that that is in front of you all the time. And it made me think of when my daughter was telling me about her weekend school. They have this mission statement. A lot of places that want success, they have mission statements. My daughter said they go through the mission statement every time that it got to the point where she didn't need the paper anymore. They said, none of us need the paper. We can recite it together. And that's what your marriage should look like. That's what your marriage mission statement should look like. Last but not least, minding your marriage. What does that look like? What does that even mean? Minding your marriage means you want to focus on what's important. What is important in your marriage? You and your spouse. What's important in your marriage is what you and your spouse want your marriage to look like. Not what you, your spouse and somebody else on the outside want it to look like. Not what your co-wife and, her friends want it to look like. Not what, the brothers at the masjid want it to look like. It's what you and your husband want, you and your spouse want your marriage to look like. And how else do you mind your marriage? You protect your marriage. Protecting your marriage has to be important, has to be a key, has to be one of the things that's at the top of the list when it comes to minding your marriage. Who do you protect your marriage from? Protect your marriage from outsiders and from insiders. Now, the outsiders, we know it could be any type of advice, unsolicited advice, because so many people have so many things to say. We constantly, because now we're out there and open with what we're doing, and pretty much almost have our family, at least our marriage right now, on display, because we use that as a tool to help others. We get so many people who want to tell us what we should and shouldn't do. But we need to make sure the advice that we bring into our marriage is the advice that we want in our marriage. Is this going to help you grow? Is it going to help your marriage get better? If it's not, then that's something that you should let fall by the wayside. You don't have to take every advice, every type of advice, or everybody's advice. They'll try to give you that. And then you also have haters, and you sometimes have those haters that pose as people who are trying to give you some good advice. So we've experienced that on a number of levels as well. However, we've had questions on how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the people who say, well, polygyny is wrong, or because it's not legal, or how do you deal with, the people who just don't agree with your way of life? The thing is, if it's not making us better, if it's not something that is being beneficial to our lives, we leave it. We take what we can use, we take what we need, because your opinion doesn't really matter to me. I heard that saying so many times, and I was just taking that because that was a quote that was stated that your thoughts about me or your opinion about me is none of my business, because that's your opinion about me. I know me. It goes back to the knowing your worth, knowing what you want, going back to your marriage mission statement. Also, you want to protect your marriage from insiders. That's you and your spouse. What does that look like? That look like ego, comparisons. You know, comparing if you are a wife, comparing yourself to your co-wife, comparing the relationship that you think your husband has with your co-wife, comparing your marriage with other marriages that you may have seen on Instagram or Facebook, or, you know, somebody that you see the snippet of their lives and think that that's what it looks like. Now, the grass could be greener on the other side, but you definitely have to realize that if the grass is greener, it's probably because they dealt with a lot of manure in order to get that green grass. So, and they went through it, they worked through it. Because the only time success comes before work in a dictionary. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on what's important in our marriages. That's you and your spouse. You want to make sure that and yes, of course, the family dynamic is important, but it starts with you. It starts with you and your spouse. The first family, the first relationship was a husband and wife. You know, so that's where it started, and everything else came from that. So you want to make sure you're focusing on that, and you're doing this, you're taking the steps necessary to be successful in your marriage and mind your marriage. That's it for my part of the training, guys. Alhamdulillah. So I hope you guys got some wonderful information from this training. Of course, like I said, I know that we are, I'm trying to be mindful of time and all that other good stuff. So inshallah, we'll get everything together. Coach Nazir is going to set up and, of course, bring us home with Anchor before we go into our question and answer, inshallah. And if you guys are, you guys have some questions, definitely make sure you put some question marks before your questions so we can see those are questions before we go through the comments, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum, sis. Would it be possible to, I want to see if we can get some questions answered now, because as you guys know, Assalamu alaikum, brother. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we've got like 15, 20 minutes. We've got 15, 20 minutes before the next session.
Do you want to do some questions right now? Or
no, we've got 15, 20 minutes before the next session starts. So I know that you have a workshop that you want to invite people to. So maybe if they've got questions, they can join you on that workshop, inshallah. What do you reckon?
But I reckon that UK English.
Yes, it is UK English.
Yes,
Okay.
I would reckon.
Okay,
Yeah,
I reckon it's a good idea to keep questions to a more, another session, because I know everyone's got so many questions, but I know you want to deliver your piece as well. And we have the village auntie coming in at 12:30. So inshallah, Bismillah, atfadal.
Indeed. I have 10 minutes, inshallah, so I'll be good. Again, this is Coach Nazir, and obviously you heard from Coach Fatimah, you heard from Coach Nyla. And at this point, you're going to hear from me. I'm the guy who chose to go into polygyny, period. Now, again, I mentioned that I've been married to Coach Patrick for 25 years. All right, I initially got married at 19. I didn't know anything about polygyny, wasn't thinking about polygyny. I was relatively new to Islam, maybe 2.5, 3 years being Muslim. And I knew that you have to be married. I mean, marriage is the moral way to do things. I was changing my entire life. I changed my name, changed where I came from. I grew up Christian. Through Christian school, kindergarten, 10th grade, and all of that. And that's actually what led me to Islam, to really study more. But without really all that backstory, let's talk about some things. One is sometimes the main question that women usually pose is why. They think, well, is the reason for polygyny is that there's something wrong in the marriage, or your wife is just deficient, you're trying to make up for something, or you just wanted to explore more. What is it? Well, there's many different reasons. But I'm just gonna let you know, sisters, that just like we can never understand the challenges that you deal with when it comes to a menstrual cycle or giving birth, you're likely not going to understand that in men. As a properly established Islam said, we had a mountain to go one another. And as men, men are not like the women. A healthy man has 10 times more testosterone than a woman. And a healthy woman, hormonally, has 10 times more estrogen than a man. So we, on just a simple biological level, are very different. So we respond differently under different stresses and everything else. So just basically biologically speaking. Now, biologically speaking, you will see that and really recognize that amount of procreation or continue with that. But again, I'm not here for that piece, but I want to talk to the brothers in particular. Now, as a father of daughters and sons, biologically I have 10 children, then I have 2 bonus children with polygyny. So that's a dozen. All right, they range from 25 years old down to 2 years old. But all of my daughters, all of my biological daughters, they're all grown. So 25 to 18 years old. And one already said she wants to be in polygyny when she gets married. She wants to be the first wife that gets married and enjoy her husband, but she wants him to have 4 wives, which is like, whoa. But anyway, we'll see when that time comes. Allahu Akbar. But talk to the brothers is because there's a few different things. There's some challenges, and there's some things that can help make you more than twice the man or man of value, if you will. Now, I didn't have a lot of these different characteristics initially. And I was married 15 years, monogamy. And I wasn't actively looking, I don't want to marry another wife. The opportunity really presented itself. I wasn't looking and I was searching and trying to find out how I can marry another. That wasn't even part of my plan to begin with. I wasn't averse to it. I wanted to experience Islam in its totality. So there are some things though that are very important. I want you to be able to deliver on the invisibles. All right, the measurables are very easy. This is what I mean, the measurables. The measurables are time and money. It's pretty simple. All right, it's being justice, being fair, being equitable, and time and money. Those things are measurable. Anybody can audit that. That's pretty simple. And now I'm usually talking about, even when I say money, I'm talking about currency. So as an example, let me make sure it's closed. When I say money, what I generally mean, like if you have money, they use come in these tubes. So these here are US silver eagles, for example. So these here are silver eagles. These are money. They come into the 20 or something. You could get a monster box, and this is Sharia money. This is Sharia. Must be gold and silver. It actually must have value. So for example, here's a gold US eagle as well. So this is real money. Now it'd be great to know it, but you have to deliver on the invisibles. Usually marriages don't go bad because of, he's not spending enough time with money. Whether monogamy or polygyny, that's really usually not the issue. It's the invisible that you must deliver on. So when it comes to polygyny, that are extremely important, which means your leadership skills. So one of the first questions I do as I mentor and I work with others is I ask them, have you read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John? If you haven't, that's a good place to start. Now, if you need to get leadership skills, if you need to increase your financial IQ, are you familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or the board game Cash Flow 101? Because the major complaint, he doesn't have enough money to do this or expand. And women, they're women, they have a right to be protected, taken care of, and all this type of stuff, right? So you, again, have to be more than twice the man. But the main component is being able to have some emotional resilience about yourself, because you're going to be juggling a number of different things. Jealousies are one thing. Those are normal and natural. There's a means of protection for them, okay? But being able to protect, as Coach Nyla was just talking about, from the enemies inside and out, when there's ostracizing going on within the community, when there are people who refuse to speak on it or teach on it or show some practical examples and so on, and that becomes pretty shameful. But you have to be able to take those shots for your family. You have to be able to be an active listener and communicator. And talking to yourself, asking, what is she trying to say? What is she trying to communicate? How can I take care of this? Demonstrates certain things. Now, sisters, here's the thing. When you're talking about a man and marrying someone or staying with someone or whatever, there are a number of different things that you have to recognize and say, what are the deal breakers? What are the deal breakers? Is this a good guy you're married to? So here's a simple little checklist that we have. So does this person beat women? Is there a history of domestic violence? Are there addictions? Whether other drugs, legal or illegal, that this person's on? Whether there are different porn addictions, gambling addictions. Is this person an addict in one way or another? Okay, those are important, right? Is this person some type of sexual predator or deviant or something like that? All of these things matter, don't they? They don't matter just in polygyny. But assuming that the person doesn't have that, that means they probably are okay or they're measurable or they and humans are humans. So you're not going to get just, oh, well, we're Muslims. Yeah, we have the perfect path, but that doesn't make us perfect. So you have some that are predators, you have some that are racist, you have all kinds of evil within ourselves. When I was on Hajj, you will see so many crazy different things in the haram. So I'm just saying we have to make sure we're conscious to open our eyes. But as a man, it's your job to be the protector, the provider, and exercise personal power. So in doing so, one of the things you have to protect, not only is your family, your family's reputation, your family's emotion, your wife's heart and stuff like that. But you have to also protect what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your brain, what they're affected by. So they don't be infected by anything. As a provider, what are you providing so far as your leadership and your structure? When we have our weekly family meetings, for example, everybody has a voice and stuff like that. We have an agenda, we go over minutes. I'm teaching them entrepreneurship and enterprise and business. At the same time, we go over a number of different things that are important for us. But it takes a while to get there. We've only been doing it for a few years. Again, married 10 years, but it took a number of ups and downs to go through it and grow through it. So leadership is extremely important. Getting your financial IQ up, but that emotional resilience is beyond words. So winning with people also by Johnson Maxwell. Another good start. Now, I'm not going to go into teaching you the depth of a number of different things. The best example is Prophet Islam. When you think of emotional resilience when his wife, I think it was Saud radiallahu anha, I'm not sure, sent food and Aisha radiallahu anha knocked the food out the dish. What did he do? He started picking it up. And his response was, it's from the jealousy of your mother. Now imagine that happening today. Imagine you had a gift hall, all right? And there's a special dish in your husband practices polygyny or something, or brother, practices polygyny, and his other wife sends a dish and it gets knocked out. What would we do? That will pose a major problem, wouldn't it? But look at the example we have in the Prophet. Also, think about who was the Prophet's favorite wife. We know it's Aisha radiallahu anha, right? But we know this. So that doesn't mean there's a problem necessarily having a favorite. The problem is in the treatment and leaning more toward one than the other. But it's not wise to go on, hey, this is my favorite. Again, basic stuff. But it goes to leadership, emotional resilience, be able to communicate and being able to be transparent. If they can't, you haven't demonstrated that you're able to protect, you may not be ready just yet. Might be some more work you need to do, bro. All right. So those are just a few things right there that are very important. I know we need to get to the Q&A part, and I'm just gonna let you know also we can find us Outstanding Personal Relationships, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or Outstanding Relationships on Instagram, or of course, you can go to download the 5 keys to crafting a fulfilling marriage, especially in polygyny, at our website at Outstanding Personal Relationships. I have courses, for example, what we're doing today, we do it on a monthly basis with our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle program, our students. So every month we go live, except they get downloadable audios, they got worksheets, they have direct connection with us, where we communicate, answer different questions, and so on. So we do have different courses. True Queens course, between a co-wives course, I have a course called Kings and Kingdoms that teach men, it's kind of a rites of passage that teach men how to be more, how to be able to handle more. Because if we're not handling a situation that's given to us by Allah Ta'ala to go and actually benefit people all across the planet where polygyny is needed, polygyny, there's not a lack of need for polygyny. The lack is in actual men that can be fair and stand up to the job. It's a solution to a major problem. And it was regulated over 1,400 years ago. Now, what it says is marry 2 or 3 or 4. And if not, if you feel you can't do justice, do 1. That either means we have a whole bunch of men that are weak and feel they can't do justice. And I know good people have the money and have the time. Whether 6 figures or 7 figures, even on a monthly basis coming in, and they say, I'm in monogamy, I'm good. They have mistresses and other people and so on and so forth, different things on the side. See, polygyny requires you to be more than twice the man. It requires you to be responsible. To relegate it, just say, oh, just something sexually is really, really foolish. Do you think you need to get married to have sex? Is that what people are doing throughout the world? Now, when you say morally, I agree with you. But is being a virgin right now something that's popular? Or is that something that's looked rid of? This is the society we live in an immoral society. So it requires that you become more in order to do better. So inshallah ta'ala, you got some good stuff out of that. Again, we're gonna look at a few of the question and answers and stuff. I'll get my wives back in here. And I know there's another session stuff coming up shortly. So sister, I'm gonna just mute the audio, get the sisters in here. We can address what we can address and go from there in case you have any questions in particular as well, okay?
SubhanAllah. Okay, right. Okay. I'm sure I speak for everybody here when this should really be broken up into 3 parts, right? Give me a yes in the chat if you guys think that it should be broken up into 3 parts, where you have one part, which is the man and only the man talking to the man, okay? Because you dropped some gems there that I'm sure we are not used to hearing. You know, we're not used to hearing. Now, okay, I can see sisters being like, yes, yes, yes. I want to hear from the brothers. Any brothers who are here, because mashallah, we've got a packed house, actually, over about 70 people we had in here at one point. So brothers who are here, mashallah, tabarakallah, if you would benefit from a session with Coach Nazir, just to hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say, put a yup in the chat. Ladies, please don't say anything. And don't pretend to be a man just for the poll, okay? I want to see yup. If it's a yup, I'm going to assume that it's a brother, okay? There may not be many in here, I don't know. But I feel like that session, that conversation, you know, for brothers who are curious, for brothers who are interested, for brothers who want to do it, you need to know, oh, brother says naam, okay, hard, we'll go with naam, then I'll accept a naam. But, you know, those sessions where you are hearing it from someone who's been there, who has been through the ups and downs, who knows this, you know, and who is ready to help you, you know, because sometimes amongst brothers, they hype each other up. And I've never, ever, me personally, I could be wrong about this, but I've never heard this type of, yo, you need to get yourself straight if you want to do this and you want to do it well. And I feel like Brother Nazir, we're going to have to definitely create something where the brothers can come in numbers for, you know, to have a really honest conversation. Us ladies will stay out of it and have a really honest conversation with you and be able to just ask all the questions. We've had so many men being honest, just blessing us with their honesty today, mashallah. Ladies, you know, you've been here since the morning. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, so we are going to keep, so one session for Brother Nazir with the men, and then I think for Sister Fatimah with her people, and Sister Nyla for her people, because everybody is coming from a different angle and there's so much to unpack, mashallah, so much to unpack. So Sister Farasha says the brothers hype each other up and then ghost when the issues erupt and the marriage fails. So let's stick to, like, if we can get maybe 3-4 questions, and you know, coaches, are you going to go through the chat, or do you want people to put their questions again?
We see the Q&A. We can address some of the Q&A.
Oh, okay, perfect. Let's keep it to that then.
Okay. Is the shortage of good men argument still relevant to today's society? I mean this in the sense that nowadays people can easily connect with others from all over the world, and there are countries such as China where they have way more men than women.
Yeah, I say the shortage of good men. We're still talking about good men, available men, and men who are, yeah, all of these different qualities that, you know, that play a part. And like it's stated before, especially in Islam, Muslim men. So yeah, the shortage is definitely there, especially when it still comes down to the
and black men.
And black men.
It's the Black Muslim Family Festival. Going to China. Look what they're doing to Muslims right now in China. Let's be real. I live in the United States. I live in the United States. So you're dealing with mass incarceration and the effects of that right now. You're dealing with homosexuality. You're dealing with this major push making effeminate men so that masculinity is considered toxic and masculinity is neutral, just like femininity. Okay, so yeah, those things. And then you, of course, you got the alcoholism, you have the abuse and stuff going every 18 seconds. A woman goes into the ER in the United States because she's a victim of domestic violence. So please tell me where these good men are located, because I have daughters. And my daughter did not get married to, she got married to, alhamdulillah, a couple weeks ago on September 15th, my daughter got married. And she married a brother who was born here, who doesn't live here. He's in another country, alhamdulillah, inshallah ta'ala, they'll be, together soon and stuff, post-COVID or whatever is going to happen in the world. But yeah, we couldn't, nobody in our local community even qualified. All right, and sadly, that's the case many times. And a good friend of mine, Ali, at least he put together half our dean to help, and they've had success there. But that's the answer to the question. What happens when you do not want polygyny? Okay, thank you so much for sharing such invaluable knowledge with us. What happens when you and your spouse prior to marriage both express that you do not want polygyny, and then shortly after being married, the husband expresses his wishes to marry another wife? What needs to happen in order to overcome this hurdle, especially if either party is willing to compromise? All right, that's a good question, because if you've already spoken about that prior to marriage, I wasn't interested in it, didn't know anything about it, none of that. But if that's the issue, if you came to that agreement and then afterwards, as a man, you try to change it and switch it, that's devious, that's disrespectful, that's dishonoring your marriage. And she has a right to go and make her choice and decision like, yo, we already did this. How you going to try to play the game? That's extremely weak as a man, okay? And he's at fault for something like that. That's wrong, but of course it goes back into your wakil, your wali, to put this stuff in the contract. Like my daughter just got married, she says she want to practice polygyny, and his brother said he don't want to practice polygyny. Now we can't make anything haram, halal, or halal haram. So we didn't say you can't practice polygyny. But what we put in the marriage contract was that should he decide he wants to do that, he must consult with her first, get her permission and agreement first, or that'll terminate the marriage. It annuls the marriage. So that protects her. That doesn't prohibit him from practicing it or trying to. But it's important that you do have those discussions if you're of age and you know these things and everything else. But that's shady. That's really, really shady. And that's weak as a man trying to trick a woman. Yeah. That's dirty. That's janky. So I hope that helps. Jumping in on that. We're speaking about views and intentions on polygyny as part of the talking stage, reduce the hurt and confusion of being confronted with it 5 to 10 years into a marriage. So basically having an understanding of it. I don't know.
I think it's
could
a lesson, maybe, but it's not going to erase.
Yeah, reduce.
Oh, yeah.
Reduce. It will likely reduce because you have understanding, you're communicating, you're being honest and truthful with each other. So even if a person doesn't want something, at least they can't neglect, they can respect your honesty, even if they don't agree with the situation. Okay. Where do wives legally stand in the US? Legally and lawfully is two different things. So yeah, they're lawfully married to me through an Islamic marriage. Asked the co-wife once how she told her brother, how do you address this? How do I address this issue of favoritism? By not showing favoritism.
That is a really good answer.
Yeah.
Stand that.
But it's,
yeah.
To the point.
Do the sisters, to you ladies, do you feel like you have a better marriage with their husband being in a polygynous marriage?
I do.
Well, I guess, yeah, speaking from monogamy and being in polygyny, apparently
That's
I can
something
talk.
else now.
Wait a minute. No. Hold on, sis. Okay, mashallah. I think, is it Sister Nyla in the blue scarf? Or is it Fatimah? No, okay, sorry, Manish, my bad. Sister Fatima, your face is speaking volumes right now, and we're not going to let you get away with that because you had an answer to that question. Please, inshallah, elaborate.
Well, like I said in my training, I'm not 20-year-old Fatima. I'm 45-year-old Fatima that needs like space from being wife constantly every single day where our husband is in the house all the time. Now, he doesn't do anything. It's just the mere fact that, I can get up in the morning and then, just hang out with me, just that me time that I have that I didn't have before. I was raising 4 little girls that were 2 years apart at times, so I've now been waiting for this time in my life. Now, I didn't know Allah was going to package it in polygyny. However, I understand that he knew that I was going to become someone else. that needed that time away from just husband and kids and, you know. So yeah, for me, it's, you know, it's great.
Now, the last thing, there's a good question. It was in the chat. Brother Eunice asked, I believe. I want to ask from the children's perspective and the concept of a village raising a child. I'm the second oldest of 5, and there's a big gap with the younger siblings. What are some of the benefits of polygyny for the children in comparison to monogamy children offered in a similar age range? Well, okay, go ahead.
I don't know. Okay, no, I was just thinking, like, because he said monogamy and children in the same age range. One thing I can kind of think of, just only being like part of a big family who was raised kind of in the same household and everything like that, but even, and then looking at our children who are in a different household, but then they come together and everything like that. It's these different, you know, it's these different things that they learn. Like, we all have this input on their upbringing, and there are things that I may not know that Coach Fatimah does, and she may bring to them, and then they come back to me. And I'm like, that's awesome. I could add this. So it's so many different things.
See, our oldest is 9 years old, okay? But our youngest is 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the older children, you know, they're older. But so that means there's a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Five, and then like 2.5. You know, we got to keep these numbers right. But so they're all together. So this group of 4 boys, I had the girls were first, and then biologically mine, I had 4 daughters and then 6 sons. Okay. Then I have 2 bonus children. So I have a stepson that's 21, like next week, 8 days. Wow. Whoa. And then, and then, you know, I mean, it's 15. So, you know, the ages are fine, but the thing is that we're together. You know what I'm saying? So they're at, you know, and we don't live on the same roof. I don't know if y'all addressed that or not. We don't live in the same roof. We live in very close proximity to each other, literally half a mile away. I don't know, half a kilometer or something.
Yeah,
that's like English, but it's not far. So with that being said, we see each other every day. Okay, ride together, you know, all these types of things. But it took challenge. When I talk about leadership, it took growth to get there. It wasn't always there. That was my fault. You know, I was like, okay, you know, they don't have to be friends because Islam, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, cool. You can know and know, and I could have this, but we grow, and I have a different vision going on. All right, so doing that, having influence on that, and demonstrating to my family that I'm being fair, that I'm still good. It's not just regardless of what other outsiders and stuff say, all matters. So now our children, just our children, they ride together, die together. It is what it is.
You see them every day. You see them every day. We might not see each other every single day, me and Coach Nyla, but Coach Nazir sees everybody every day.
And put it back to you, sis. I know that there's another session coming up. Do you have anything else that you wanted us to address?
No, mashallah. I think you guys definitely just, you know, blew some minds today. Barakallahu feekum. Please just finally tell everyone how they can find you. I know you're in the Facebook group, but how can they reach out to you? How can they know you? You know, how can
you faded out. Tell everyone how to get in contact with us. I presume thinkpersonalrelationships.com. That's the best way. We send out information to our email list, special videos, different streaming, different bonuses, discounts on the products and everything that we have. So that's the best way, is outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. And if you want to look at our course, or kind of what we're doing today, we do monthly live, then outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM for relationship mastery. outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM. We definitely appreciate you. Jazakumullahu khairan for the invitation. We have another training and everything that's going to be coming up next week here as part of the Black Muslim Renaissance. And we appreciate you.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Thank you guys. And definitely look out for the details of the workshop, inshallah. Follow them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, sign up to their newsletter. You know y'all want this, okay? Jazakumullah kullu khair. Subhanak Allahumma rabbana wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullah khairan.
Ameen. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.